Hey Star Hunters, it's Orion Sechi. Welcome to today's episode of Mutants and Masterminds Character Generation. So today we're doing something totally different. We're going into completely uncharted territory and we're exploring a new kind of campaign because I like to take on all kinds of new challenges. Today we're doing Leon from Resident Evil 2. This is going to be really exciting and this is going to be a little bit different because you're probably thinking, but Ori, Leon is, he's just a regular cop with standard equipment. You're right. But that doesn't mean that he can't be used as part of a campaign. So we're going to be exploring a new kind of campaign, making a power level 6 character, right? And I think it's really awesome, and I look forward to showing you a character that explores standard equipment. This is going to be really exciting, and this is also a two-parter because next week for my character generation, I'm making a power level 10 Leon from later in the Resident Evil franchise after he's been infected and cured multiple times from different viruses and has superpowers, because he actually does. Anyway, so stay tuned, have a blast, and let's go. Alright everybody, let's jump right in. I'm making this character power level 6, which means he only has 90 power points. This is super important because it really limits a lot of what we can do, but he's surprisingly versatile, so this should definitely be interesting. Now, as you note, I only have 1 point spent in powers. That is very interesting what I did with that, and I think it could be very, very fun. So, with that stated, let's jump right in. I gave him 4 strength, which is still very, very physically strong. This is much more than what you'd see in a standard cop. I've built Leon as a very exceptionally talented and capable individual with 4 strength, 5 stamina, 1 agility, 0 dexterity, 6 fighting, 0 intellect, 2 awareness, and 4 presence. That is a really impressive 44 power points spent on his abilities, which gives him a really nice base. Now for the defenses, I only spent 8 points in defenses, because remember with the power level limits, I cannot go above double the power level, so I can't go above 12 for dodge plus toughness, parry plus toughness, or fortitude plus will. So I'm flirting with that very, very closely. I've got him at 5 dodge, 6 parry, 6 fortitude, and the 5 toughness is from his stamina, but he does also get extra toughness from his police body armor that I'll get into in a little bit, and he's got 5 will. So that's on him on his defenses. Let's scroll right on that. Now you see a lot of offensive stuff. I'll get into that. Now the one power I gave him is a modern cell phone. That is a smartphone with GPS, internet searching capabilities, ability to make phone calls, ability to record video, a flashlight built in, ability to record audio, all of that stuff, everything you could ever imagine on a cell phone. He has access to with that. Because it is a power, it is something that he should always have on his person at all times, right? If the GM takes it away, you get a hero point because it's a power. And that is really useful. You can extra effort in order to, add, ranks to things when you're making checks. It can be really exciting what you can do with just that. All right, sliding right on down. Now, he has a lot of advantages, but I won't want to get into that yet. Let's get into his skills. So I gave him 4 ranks in acrobatics, 4 ranks in athletics, 6 ranks in insight, 6 ranks in perception, 6 ranks in persuasion, and 6 ranks in medical treatment. I gave him the medical treatment because I felt like he has a lot of experience dealing with being on his own and a lot of survival training. So I thought that was a very good representation. So advantages are where things get really expensive. He's got Inspire 2, Power Attack, Improved Initiative, Quick Draw. Now the Quick Draw feat is really important because he uses weapons. Gave him Accurate Attack, Ranged Attack 6, Close Attack 2, Takedown 2, Luck, and Leadership. Now the Ranged Attack 6 means any ranged weapon he picks up, he adds 6 to the on hit, as long as it's not exceeding his power level, and the Close Attack 2 is to deal with his hand-to-hand combat training any kind of melee combat, of close combat, he's going to add 2 to the on hit. Because his police training is giving him such a wide range of skills, I felt it was best represented to put that together as attack advantages instead of individual combat skills. Now, let's jump into the big one right here. This is an equipment advantage. So, we talked about powers being removable before, where if a power is removable, the GM can take it from you without really having an explanation, and without like giving you a PowerPoint. Well, there usually is some kind of explanation, but they don't have to give you a PowerPoint for it. Equipment is very different. Equipment is stuff you can get from the store. Equipment is stuff that is just standard that your character did not build, and is just pretty standard equipment. And this is like if you go to a weapon shop and you'll pick this stuff up, and your GM can take this from you without question. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. But at the same time, because of how equipment works, depending on the campaign, your GM could give you equipment without making you pay for it. It would just be limited to one scene, and just as a reward for something your character was able to accomplish. So, for 1 rank of the equipment advantage gives you 5 equipment points. And then you buy them with the same kind of things, like the same costs as if you're buying them with power points, except with equipment points. I gave him, for his equipment, a set of police armor, because he does wear that stereotypical armor in that first game, giving him protection 1. I gave him 13 points in weapons. Now, this is not optimized whatsoever. This is very much standard equipment with one huge exception. So the big costly thing is the shotgun. Now, shotguns in this game are a little bit kooky, right? So follow me here as I explain this. It is a ranged. There are two settings on the shotgun. There is the flak setting and the shell setting. Now, the range damage 5 regular is the shell setting. That is just range damage 5. Boom. No questions. The other one is if you set it to flak, you can have it be range damage 5 with accurate 1, so it adds 2 to the on hit. But if you are hitting anything with any ranks in protection, it will only do 3 damage instead of 5. It'll just do half damage against something with protection, and that's the caveat for the shotgun. Now, in the Fistful of Zombies run I had him go to, yes, I did mean Fistful of Zombies this time. I do have him fighting a clump of zombies. He used the shotgun for pretty much all of his damage dealing because it was his most powerful weapon, and it gave him the most versatility. Now, the one custom piece of equipment that is not standard that I encourage if you're doing a zombie campaign, where like most of your characters are going to be maybe enhanced humans or something, I really suggest you have this available as something the characters can find, or something that maybe they can get multiple uses of over the course of a game. And this is a healing spray. It is heal 10 with the limit that it can only be cast on the person using it, where you can't spray it on someone else. That's really big. He used it multiple times in the Fistful of Zombies run. And then handcuffs because he is a police officer. So that brings him to the 90 points. For his actual combat capabilities, you see that because of his super strength, well, not super strength, he's strength 4, which isn't super strength, it's very good. He gets a +8 to hit, his damage 4 with his fist. He does the same amount of damage with his pistol. I gave him a TMP, which is his machine pistol, which is only a damage 3, and it only gets a +6 to hit. So it seems like it's very inefficient, but it does have multi-attack. If you roll really well, or you get a really good advantage on someone, you can take a lot of advantage of the TMP's damage output, right? Because that has the potential to jump up there in damage, but he's still #1 damaging weapon is going to be the shotgun. Because he has power attack, he can crank that shotgun up all the way to 10 damage because it is a damage 5 weapon. So keep that in mind. Now remember, if you crank it up, it's he's only going to be getting a +1 with the shell for the on hit, and a +2 for the flak on the on hit. And the flak is irrelevant against armored enemies because you're only going to be adding 5. Like you're going to cap out. Like it's only going to be doing 6 damage instead of 10. So you do what you can do. So this has been and his approved initiative makes his initiative 5. So this has been his stats. Stay tuned for even more excitement as I get into the Fistful of Zombies run. Ready? Let's go. Alright everybody, welcome to the second half of the video. Now you may notice that we're not zoomed in on my face like I normally am for story time, and that's because I want to go over a couple things. So, this is for a zombie survival kind of campaign, which is different from your regular PL10 where superheroes we power through everything kind of campaign. And I want to go over what makes this different and why. The big thing is equipment. Standard equipment that your characters can find or already have on them. Normally, if a character is finding equipment, you're not charging them for it, and it's up to you how you scatter the equipment around. Now, use of the equipment is still going to be limited by power level limits, and the way you can explain that is you're not able, like you said, you're not able to aim it as effectively because of how big or bulky it is, or you're not able to get the maximum damage out because you're just not trained in using it because it's not a thing that's innately part of your body. Right, so that's how you would flavor that, okay? So I'm going to go quickly, really quickly, over the melee weapons and then the ranged weapons so you have some idea of the kinds of things your character's going to have access to. Then I'm going to go over some weapon add-ons that your characters could find and slap on their weapons, okay? So first let's go through here. We've got the brass knuckles, which is just, now these are all strength-based. Brass knuckles, club, knife, pepper spray, right? And the stun gun, right? So these are the standard things, damage 1, damage 2, then this is damage 1. Now the bludgeoning and piercing, that has to do with damage resistances. Some enemies may be resistant to certain types of damage. Like you could make the zombies immune to all damage but bludgeoning, for instance, right? Since like piercing damage is going to go straight through them and do nothing to them, right? It's up to you how you flavor that, right? And then we've got the pepper spray. Now we get down to these, the archaic weapons, which are the battle axe, the sword, and the spear, and the warhammer all do 3 damage. It's just a question of if they have increased critical, right? And then, we've got these exotic weapons of the chain, the chainsaw. The chainsaw's really big numbers. It's up to you whether you apply strength to that. The nunchucks or the whip, which is, it can either improvise, what's that? Improved grab, improved trip, and reach 3, so you can attempt to use it for grabbing checks. Now, you're probably thinking, wow, these are pretty good. Why don't I give, since they're so low equipment cost, why don't I give them to my superpowered characters? Well, let's go up here, where we need to talk about the strength that you apply to them is limited by the material they're made out of, right? So, if you apply strength to a weapon that is higher than the toughness of the material the weapon's made out of, like for instance a wooden sword, like you see this more with the archaic weapons, you apply more than 4 strength, you get 1 swing and then the sword will break. For the metal ones, it's going to be 7 or 8. So that's your limiting factor for that. Now, if you have supernaturally strong weapons, like supernaturally strong materials, that's where you start to slide into the devices department instead of the equipment department, okay? Whoops, wrong one. Whee! Don't mind that. That's Leon's character sheet. We already went over that. So, do make sure you keep track of that. So these are the melee weapons. All right, so it's up to you whether you add other riders, right, to this. All right, so... now, as far as the afflictions, putting afflictions on equipment can be a little bit iffy because that's very powerful, but, it's up to the GM what they give them access to, right? Now we get down to the ranged weapons, right? This is your bread and butter that you're going to be finding your stuff in there. Now, most of the pistols, I usually stick to the heavy pistol, the damage 4, as the standard pistol. For player characters. For most enemies, I'll give them light pistols. The light pistol is going to be much cheaper, easier to find, but again, because of impervious toughness, if you give impervious toughness to enemies, the light pistol becomes kind of irrelevant really fast. Really fast. Got the machine pistol. This is what Leon's TMP is a machine pistol. And gave him the shotgun. I went over all things with the shotgun. The shotgun's a little bit weird. Your fully automatic rifle, multi-attack, damage 5, good weapon. Sniper rifle with the it's essentially a shotgun but with improved crit. You know, your bow, your crossbow. It's up to you if you want to make the bow strength based. Normally it is not, but you can run that however you want to. Then you get the energy weapons. You can use these stat blocks for other things too. Flamethrower is a really fun one that a lot of people like to throw into certain things because some people like to give their zombies a weakness to fire. And then the flamethrower just gets really great for getting through things or giving the really big enemies like a thing with impervious toughness, but that impervious toughness doesn't count against fire. Or just like they have weakness, or like, you know, it's a really great way when you introduce things like a flamethrower. Like flamethrowers, grenade launchers, and rocket launchers, they're really big, they're bulky, they're not practical, but if you find one, you want it to feel amazing. You know what I mean? And then we've got the thrown weapons. These are again normally strength based. Now let's go over the accessories and things you can put on them, right? Each one of these just increases the cost of the weapon by 1 equipment point. Laser sight, which is what I have on his pistol, which gives accurate 1, which increases the on hit by +2. Stun ammo, which is where it's the ammo does non-lethal damage, so it doesn't kill things, it just knocks it unconscious. And again, reloading is a move action, just like drawing a weapon, unless you have the quick draw feat where it's a free action. Suppressor makes it hard to hear something, gives it subtle 1, so it takes a DC 20 for somebody to hear something. And the targeting scope gives you the improved aim advantage, and you know, which on that weapon, which is pretty nice. For really cheap. Now up here we have the grenades. It's up to you how you want to have the grenades. I normally avoid them because it's very easy for the grenades to like catch enemies, or if I introduce the grenades, because like damage 5 isn't super amazing. That's not that much better than a pistol, but it is great on a clump of enemies for people who don't have takedown. So, and also like grenades, I usually make a limited number of use ability, where I'll say you get 3 grenades or 2 grenades or 5 grenades instead of just letting them have an infinite number of them. That is generally how I run with that. So that's that. Now these big explosives are normally used for like the finales. Since it's not used in combat, I normally will let these, like I won't have them deal with power level limits for these, because it's not like they're setting that up to destroy something. Alright. And now I modified his armor. I made his armor essentially it's leather armor, protection 1, instead of the undercover shirt, which is protection 2, but only to ballistic, but that makes space for it to be subtle. I didn't even mess with that. I didn't give him a shield. Now remember, with armor, right? Because this is equipment, these are not devices, these protection bonuses cannot stack, right? These protections do not stack with any other source of protection, right? So let's say you have full plate armor, right, which is protection 6. If you have a bulletproof vest underneath your full plate armor and you get shot with a bullet, that does not mean you have protection 10. It will be the protection 6, not the protection 4, because it only goes over whichever one is higher, okay? Okay. Now that we're gone over all that, story time. I am actually really happy with how Leon's story time came out. I had another one recorded for this video, but I had to redo it because the audio was goofy, or more like the internet was like, hey, we recognize that song, and they wanted to put ads in front of my video and have those ads be giving money to somebody else, which I was like, I'm not super confident about that. Now, this is a reflavoring of the Fistful of Nazis. I have modified this for my purposes, and I believe that this actually is kind of exciting what it introduces. Now, this is a kind of a horror campaign, but in this one, Leon is trying to get out of the Raccoon City Police Department, and everything's going haywire, and his goal isn't so much to kill everything as much as is to deal with the things that can keep up with him and then run away. So I have replaced the regular soldiers with rifles with the with PL2 zombie minions from the back of the Basic Heroes Handbook. They're zombies, so that means they count as constructs. They don't have a fortitude. They don't have an awareness score. Well, intellect actually. And so they are immune to all fortitude and will checks. That is just doesn't touch them because they have they're not technically organic. They're immune to all kinds of poisons and all of that stuff, and you can't mind control them because there's just not a mind there to control. Right? Now, with that stated, they are also very, very weak. These are the generic ones. They have 0 dodge, 1 parry, 3 toughness, and their attacks do like 2 damage. Their big thing is coming in numbers. Now, I have replaced the soldier character, the general, the commander, the one with the rocket launcher, with the liquor, which is just a beefed up zombie. I gave it 3 dodge, 3 parry, 5 toughness, still the whole immune to fortitude and will saves, and I gave it the tongue thing where it shoots its tongue out, and made that a ranged attack that got a +5 to hit and was 10 damage. So it's a really, really high damage attack, and I gave it that it tracks things with its hearing, but it's blind, so it has the limitation that if you're moving slowly or you're using a suppressed weapon, it's just not going to notice you whatsoever. And all that's left is the tank. The tank I replaced with Mr. X, a custom designed minion that I made. Probably thinking, minion? Why would you make Mr. X a minion? Well, I mean, it doesn't super matter because you don't kill Mr. X, you run. You could make him a non-minion. For this, I gave him a dodge and parry of -4. So he's really easy to hit. But he has 20 impervious toughness. Means he ignores everything 10 damage or below. Makes him very, very hard to damage because he's also a zombie, so he's immune to fortitude and will saves, so there's not a whole lot you can do until you can beat over his toughness. Gave him a +6 to hit for his close attack, which, because of his strength and I have him with increased size, he has 10 damage on his close attack. He can also pick things up and throw them. I know he doesn't really do that in the game, but for this design he can do that as well for also +6 to hit 10 damage. I gave him power attack because he can hit really hard. Not accurate because that implies a bit more intelligence. Like, they are somewhat intelligent, but not super intelligent. Not strategic. I gave him limitation that if he gets lit on fire, he has a -5 toughness, a -15 to his toughness, which brings him down to 5. So there's like this glaring weakness, in the game. Whenever he takes enough damage, or he gets lit on fire, his coat breaks, and that's his like power limiter. At which point he starts mutating, and then that's a whole nother fight. But I didn't want to deal with that at this because I didn't want to spoil some of the things for the ending for people who haven't finished RE2. Play it; it's a great game. The last thing I did for him, he has speed -1, which means he moves at 15 feet per round, and he has a speed of like a running speed of like 1 mile an hour in this form when he's still wearing his power limitation coat. And this is also a prototype, mass production model, so it's not the one that's running 43 miles per hour. Overall, still pretty powerful enemy. And that's I set that up to be an obstacle, where at this point in the story, Leon has dealt with this thing before. He's wasted ammunition on it, and he's seen that his bullets just don't do anything to it. So he knows better than to waste ammunition on it. Okay. This is Leon in the Raccoon City Police Department. Ready? Let's go. Leon is exploring the Raccoon Police Department when the wall gets ripped open by a massive man in a trench coat, followed by a clump of the infected with a licker crawling along the wall. He knows better than to waste his precious ammo on this hulking behemoth. He pulls out his shotgun and loads his flak rounds and just unloads into the infected, taking all their heads off, not even bothering to really aim. The licker crawls along the wall, shoots its tongue out at Leon, catches him in the arm, but he's able to shrug off the damage. Doesn't do very much to him. The behemoth, Mr. X, runs at where Leon is hiding, runs full speed, and makes a swinging charge attack. His fist collides with Leon's chest, knocking him back. He gets pushed back and he's dazed. Leon, remembering why he can't stay close to this big behemoth, sprays the healing spray on himself, getting himself back to full health, and he manages to walk past Mr. X. The licker runs along the wall. It fires its tongue at Leon, but it misses him. Leon realizes if he doesn't move very fast, the licker can't see him. But his problem right now is Mr. X, who runs at him making a massive swing, but he just barely misses this rookie cop. Assessing the situation, Leon realizes he needs to get away from Mr. X, and that the licker uses sounds to track him. Looking around, he just so happens to see that there's a silencer just the right size for his pistol on the table right next to him. He grabs the silencer and starts screwing it into the end of his pistol as he walks briskly away, trying not to make too much noise. The licker, trying to follow the sound of Mr. X but track its prey, fires its tongue at where it thinks Leon should be by now. It just barely misses him. Mr. X keeps charging after Leon, but Leon's able to get out of the way of the wide swing. Leon fires some rounds from his silenced pistol at the licker, hitting him, dazing the licker, injuring him. But then he tries to walk slowly to put some distance, so that way the licker won't know where he is, thinking that he's a safe enough distance away from Mr. X. Mr. X realizes he doesn't have to run this time, and he walks up to Leon and swings with full force. The wind off of his swinging fist rushes over Leon's face as Leon just barely ducks out of the way, and he realizes had that fist connected, he'd have been dead. Seeing he doesn't want to be close again, he fires his silenced pistol at the licker, hoping to take it down, but he misses. And this time he starts running for the door, realizing he doesn't want to be anywhere near that swing again. The licker hears his footsteps, runs along the wall, and fires its tongue at Leon, still missing him. Mr. X walks to where Leon was, grabs the table that the silencer had been on, and throws it at Leon. It just barely misses him, but it shatters against the wall. Tired of trying this silent treatment, he stows his pistol and pulls out the shotgun. He fires again at the licker, obliterating it. And then he runs out the door and down the stairs. Mr. X keeps stalking him. And that was Leon versus Mr. X and a licker and a bunch of these zombies. So, as you noticed, Leon did not take down Mr. X. I mentioned that if you set that in this design, if Mr. X gets set on fire, you could damage him, and then the idea of like when you damaged him, the mutated one would come out. I didn't want to spoil too much stuff for the ending because that is actually really interesting and intense for people who haven't played or seen the ending. But you're not always going to be able to defeat it, so I very much suggest if you're running this kind of a zombie horror survival campaign, make sure that the goal of the campaign does not involve killing all of the enemies. Make sure there's some kind of a thing where they have to get to a landing zone, they have to get to a radio, they have to get somewhere, and it's about surviving. And when you introduce an enemy like Mr. X with this 20 impervious toughness that the players are not going to be able to damage, that 10 damage swing from his fist is going to hurt badly for the PL6 characters, right? I mean, that can even hurt PL8 or PL10 characters. That can sting. But for the PL6s, that can be straight up lethal. Or maybe you crank him up to like have his swing do like 14 damage. It's up to you where you did it. I tried to scale him as if he was a power level 8 minion. Or you can make him a player character again. But I feel like with 20 impervious toughness, if you make him a non-minion, your players will be there forever. They'll trap him in a hole and just keep loading stuff on him until he just dies. Which, if that's what you want, that's what you want. Anyway, so this has been my Fistful of Zombies run with Leon Kennedy. Now, again, stay tuned for next week where I introduce the power level 10 Kennedy, Leon, who will have specialized ammunition, a lot of training, a lot more devices instead of equipment, and superpowers, because over time, through getting infected with different viruses and gaining superpowers and being having those infections put into standby, you know, he still retains some of those powers. So I'm going to be building him a little bit like a super soldier. And look forward to that and seeing when he gets his revenge on this Mr. X. Also, like, comment, subscribe for even more goodness. Let me know more in the comments about what you thought of this and what you could do, what you would do differently. I know there are some people who just don't enjoy power level 6 campaigns, and you know what? That's fine. The entire idea is that you're playing fairly standard humans. And for some people, that's not what they want, and that's okay. Have a good one, everybody, and always, always, always remember the motto: shoot through the stars, have wonderful adventures, live your dreams, and always, always, always keep enjoying the moments.